I never wanted to be a professional footballer, so at 16 I left school and I got offered a YTS, and 6 months into that YTS I signed for Newcastle for 1.2 million. 3 years later I made my Premier League debut under Sir Bobby Robson.
James Coppinger, who Bobby Robson reckons will be a hero, a player that's been likened to Gianfranco Zola. And
life was good. I mean, for somebody who didn't want to be a professional footballer to then be where I was something that I didn't know how to handle. And then 2 years later, getting released from Newcastle, finding myself in the conference. And I was living away from home for the first time in Exeter, with no real support network behind me. My granddad had passed away when I was 21. My mum and dad had divorced as well. And yeah, I was struggling. I was sort of drinking, gambling and doing sort of things that I'd experienced for the first time. I just didn't have the capabilities or the understanding of how to deal with it. It was so difficult. And yeah, I didn't know where to turn.
How close did you come to quitting football?
Yeah, really close. I mean, I remember having a conversation with my girlfriend at the time, sort of discussing that, look, I'm not enjoying this anymore, I don't think it's what I want to do. And I came very close to sort of packing it in.
Eamon Dolan had persuaded you to carry on the Exeter manager at the time. You're grateful to the late Eamon Dolan as well?
100%. I mean, I remember speaking to Eamon, I didn't want to come back to Exeter. And then I got the phone call and he said, look, we'll give you Mondays off, you can come, you're a big part of our plans. And I think that was what I needed. I needed that support network. I never had that. My mum and dad had divorced, so they were going through their own issues and problems. I moved away 360 miles away from home. I didn't have anyone, and Eamon was a huge support to me. Sort of taught me, got me back playing well. And then yeah, I got the opportunity to eventually come back up north with Doncaster.
Did it only occur to you, perhaps, after that it was a mental health issue that you were struggling to deal with? Yeah,
I mean, at the time I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what was happening. I was getting quite anxious, and yeah, it was tough. Looking back now, I can sort of understand where I was.
So when you got to Doncaster, what changed, and what changed your mindset?
I was training really well, but there was just something that wasn't right when it came to a game. I couldn't sort of put my finger on what it was. I was again a little bit anxious, I was letting people affect what I did. But then I got a call from Dave Penny, who asked me to go to the ground at Bellevue. Somebody would be waiting for me to speak to.
And that was Terry Gormley.
When I first met him, without a shadow of a doubt, he was on his way out of footballing. He'll say that, and he said it many times. And then he had the ability to open up. The big problem that I see in football is people bottle it up. People bottle it up, they don't say anything, they think they're weak, and it's actually a massive strength, and I think that's what this young man has here. And what happened was, on that very first session, James was so open, and he was like, oh my, you know, so open with his feelings, what was going on in his life, and then we just started to break it down.
And I remember breaking down in that first session, speaking about my granddad, which obviously was a big part of how I was feeling. So yeah, to actually break down and then come out of that session, and it makes me, you can see how me smile, like it makes me feel so happy just to know as soon as I stepped out of that session, it changed my life completely. The older I've got, the more I've worked on it. It's not something that I'd worked with Terry and that was it. You keep building and building and building, you keep adapting to certain circumstances. I've had setbacks, but I know how to deal with them. I make sure that I find ways to deal with them.
Were you sceptical at the time? Did it surprise you how much you took it on board?
It did surprise me actually, but I must have been in a really bad place to actually open up and be so receptive to it.
And those incredible moments that you've had in your career at Doncaster, the 2 promotions to the Championship in the playoff final, and the winner that you scored at Brentford to secure promotion. Do you think that that strong mindset has given you those moments? Is it those moments that you work so hard for?
Without a doubt. There's no way I would have achieved what I've achieved without having that strong mindset and that understanding of what it takes to get to that level. Because there's only one certain thing, and that is you're going to go through disappointment, you're going to go through setbacks, people are going to dislike you, but it's how you cope with that, it's how you put things together to make sure that they don't affect you, they don't affect your performance, they don't affect you off the pitch. And I've been able to do that, and that's why I enjoy sharing that experience and that knowledge with other people as well. My kids growing up sort of 12, 13 and 5, I actually enjoy and understand how to communicate with them because I've been through it and I understand how it works. It might take a little bit of persuading, but I do really enjoy helping other people as well.
Alongside Terry, you do help others with your company, ProMindset. Tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so we set up a company sort of working with players and basically helping them similar to what Terry helped me.
So when we first looked at starting it, it was, there was nothing about really. In fact, when I started first working in football, there was nobody even working in the Premier League in terms of mindset or behaviour. And it's a vital component to professional sport as it is in life, really. And so we thought we'll set it up if we can make a difference, even just to one person. And we started running a few little courses for footballers coming on, and then all of a sudden, people's performances and their mental state improves, and just making a difference really I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we did make a difference to a lot of people in terms of how they approach things. They came and it was really beneficial for me to see sort of 10, 15 footballers in one room listening to Terry. And
you, of course, because you're a big part of it.
Yeah, but I mean, for me to watch them go through what I went through and think, oh my God, like, actually that makes sense, why don't I do that, or why haven't I been doing that? I think if you're injured, you go and see a physio. I always thought that you go and see a physio with a bad knee, but if you're struggling mentally, where do you go? That was the problem 10, 15 years ago. You didn't go anywhere. Whereas now, people are becoming aware of it, that, wow, I do feel down and I don't like doing that and I don't want to do that, and there's signs that people can pick on now, and then you can go, right, we've got somebody in our club that can deal with that, or in our workplace that can deal with that, and I think that is huge.
The Heads Up campaign being supported by the EFL, led by the Duke of Cambridge, extremely high profile conversation about mental health. Do you think that football is getting better at dealing with mental health?
I think it is. I think over the last 5 or 10 years, when we started ProMindset, there was nothing, or there was very little awareness, very little out there that was accessible for people. I feel like in the last 5 years, things have gone from strength to strength, and it makes such a difference.
I always explain to people like it's part of a recipe, and if you leave a key ingredient out of a recipe, it kind of still works, but it's not the same. And if you're not utilising that, then you're missing out of a massive part in the performance of people in professional sport as it is in business as well.
You have to be able to understand how your mind works and then understand what you need to do to fix it. And we said people don't talk about it, people don't teach it, but why? Why don't people teach it? And I feel like what Terry did and what I did by going open mind, I feel like it's probably 75-80% of why I'm still playing at 39.
Yeah, to be fair, there's a bit of talent in there as well.
But the talent's the 10 and the 5. But I genuinely feel like you can have all the talent in the world. I've seen it. I've seen it day in, day out in training. Players that come in that have all the talent in the world, but mentally they just can't cope with disappointment, been injured, been dropped, what people say about them. And if you can't deal with that, then your talent's obsolete. There's no point in having talent.
Because your energy isn't up, is it? And it's all reduced. And if you're not in a really great frame of mind, of what we call a powerful state or a powerful mindset, then you're not going to perform at a key level.
Billy Key, the Accrington striker, who unfortunately made the decision to retire recently, but he's been so outspoken about his struggles. Can that only help the fact that he's shared his story?
I think so. I think you look at Billy and he's done an unbelievable job at Accrington, and he's a legend there. He's played so well. He's a cult hero there, and to think that he's going to retire through mental health is difficult for people to understand. Only he knows, and people around him, what he's going through. But for somebody to do what they love and retire, not through injury but through mental health, it's hard to take. Well, I feel like his story will resonate with a lot of players. So I think what people are doing and what football is doing in general in offering people help and support can only benefit the wider community as well.
Can you feel a certain empathy for in the fact that you've been in a similar situation, that you were prepared to give up being a footballer because you were struggling so much?
I can massively, and I think going back there is strange for me to actually go back and see where I was, because that is a million miles from where I am now.
I believe that huge strides have been made and are continuing to be made, but things like this that highlight it are just, the work that you guys are doing is just so important. There'll be people probably watching this and thinking, I wish I'd said something, or where can I find that type of help and support, and hopefully that clubs will watch this as well. And bring people in that can help people is a key component, a key ingredient of success, is the way in which people think, or the mindset.
I think I think you're right. I think the more you do it, the more chance there is of helping other people. Yeah. So I think some people think it's overkill and why people keep talking about it, but there's certain times in people's lives when they will listen. So you can talk about it, and people might not be at that stage. And then all of a sudden it's still there, and they're going through something and they think, oh my God, I think I'm going to need that, or I'm going to go through that. So it can't be, right, we'll do it for this amount of time and then that's it. I think they've got to be consistent with it, so that everybody understands what it is, and when it is your turn to go through something, right, there it is, how do I deal with it? And then you have that. That is part of you, it becomes part of your makeup, so that when you do have that setback again, you do understand how to deal with it, and you can deal with it. I think that's hugely important. Throughout your life, you're going to get setbacks. You're going to have things that really hurt, whether it be when you're young, middle age or old. As soon as that happens, get help. It's as easy as going and speaking to somebody. There's so much out there that can change your life and make a huge difference.
Sky Sports Football. Feel it all.